The fluorescent lights of the financial news desk hummed, casting a sterile glow on Sarah Jenkins as she rubbed her bloodshot eyes. The digital clock in the corner of her monitor read 7:48 p.m. She shot up from her chair, knocking over a half-empty mug. Damn it! She scrambled to save the documents on her desk, but the brown liquid had already bled through the top page of a quarterly earnings analysis. Tonight was Ethan's birthday. She had promised, sworn, that she would be home on time. She'd missed being there when their daughter, Lily, had a fever last week, and she'd skipped the parent-teacher conference the day before yesterday. This time, she had given her word. No matter what, she wouldn't be late. Her phone buzzed. A glance at the screen confirmed it was her editor-in-chief, Mark Davis. Sarah, just got a tip. The Fed might announce a surprise interest rate hike tonight. We need an immediate analysis, and you know this stuff better than anyone. Can you? Mark, it's my husband's birthday. I know it's a tough ask, but the network specifically requested you. This is a huge opportunity. Mark's voice carried a weight that permitted no argument. 30 minutes. An hour, tops. We all know what you're capable of. Nail this report and that senior financial correspondent position next month. Sarah's fingers tapped an unconscious rhythm on the desk. Senior financial correspondent. The position she had been fighting for 3 years. Understand. I'm on it, she said, hanging up before immediately dialing home. The phone rang for a long time before it was picked up, the background filled with Lily's giggles and the sizzle of something frying. Hello. Ethan's voice was as gentle as always. Something urgent just came up at work. Sarah bit her lip. You guys go ahead and eat. Don't wait for me. I'll be home as soon as I can. There were 2 seconds of silence on the other end. Okay, you focus on your work. Don't be too late. His tone was so placid it was impossible to read his emotions. Lily has a surprise for you. After hanging up, Sarah stared at her screen, forcing herself to concentrate. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as financial jargon and market analysis flowed from her mind into words. This was her element, clear, precise, rational. At 10:17 p.m., Sarah finally shut down her computer. The network's director had called personally to praise her rapid analysis. She should have been thrilled, but all she felt was an inexpressible exhaustion. When she pushed open the front door, only a single, dim wall lamp lit the living room. The dining table was set with an elaborate meal, grilled steak, roasted asparagus, garlic mashed potatoes, all of Ethan's specialties, and her favorites. The food was cold, a white film of congealed fat coating the surface of the steak. The candles on the birthday cake were unlit. Beside it lay a handmade card from Lily, with Happy Birthday Daddy scrawled in clumsy letters next to a drawing of 3 stick figures. The small one in the middle had pigtails. Sarah quietly pushed open her daughter's door. Lily was curled up in her small bed, clutching the teddy bear Ethan had given her for her birthday last year. She leaned in to kiss her daughter's forehead and caught the faint scent of buttercream. Lily must have snuck a piece of cake. That was Ethan, always saying they should wait for Mom, but never able to resist his daughter's pleading. The master bedroom door was ajar. Ethan was lying on his side, his back to the door, his breathing even. Sarah tiptoed to the bathroom to grab her pajamas, letting the hot water wash over her tense muscles. It was just another late night, she told herself. Ethan would understand. He always did. As she came out drying her hair, Sarah noticed a glass of water on the nightstand. The lukewarm water Ethan prepared for her every single night. She picked up the glass and saw a note tucked underneath it. Sarah, the cake is in the fridge. It's the Black Forest you love. Lily waited as long as she could, but she was too tired. I have to take her to preschool early tomorrow, so I turned in. Happy anniversary. For me, the best gift was you saying yes 7 years ago today. Sarah stood in the dim bedroom, the glass trembling in her hand. Today wasn't just Ethan's birthday. It was their wedding anniversary, and she had completely forgotten. Ethan stared at the lines of code on his screen, a sharp pain pulsing in his temples. He hadn't slept in 32 hours. Caffeine coursed through his veins, but it was no match for the waves of exhaustion crashing over him. Ethan, the server crashed again, said Kevin, an intern, standing nervously at his office door. The QA team says if we can't get it stable by today. I know. Ethan rubbed his red-rimmed eyes and saved his latest changes. Tell the team to meet in the conference room in 5 minutes. His phone vibrated. A notification from Lily's preschool. Ethan glanced at the clock, 4:20 p.m. Only 10 minutes until pickup. He quickly replied, "Thanks for the reminder. I'll be there on time." In a conference room, 8 exhausted engineers sat around the long table. Ethan sketched a simplified system architecture on the whiteboard, circling the problematic modules with a red marker. Dave, double-check the load balancer configurations. Maria, you and your team re-examine the database indexes. Jason, I need you to... Ethan's voice was steady and clear, betraying none of the fatigue from working through the night. Frank Peterson, the VP of engineering, pushed the door open, his face grim. Ethan, I just got off the phone with corporate. If the system isn't stable within 3 days, they're considering shelving the project. The air in the room went still. This project was the company's biggest investment of the year and the culmination of 8 months of his team's hard work. I understand, Ethan said, his voice remaining calm. We'll deliver a stable version on schedule. Frank clapped him on the shoulder, lowering his voice. Everything okay at home? I heard Lily was sick a few days ago. She's fine now. Ethan answered curtly, his eyes fixed on the whiteboard. The priority right now is fixing this server issue. At 4:50 p.m., Ethan grabbed his jacket. I have to get my daughter. I'll be back in 2 hours to keep working. Call me if anything comes up. Ethan, this bug, a young engineer said, anxiously blocking his path. Ethan paused, quickly scanning the code. Try encapsulating this section into a separate function to reduce the nested loops. I'll take a closer look when I get back. At the preschool gate, Lily was already standing with her teacher, her small pink backpack on. The moment she saw Ethan, she broke into a run, her pigtails bouncing. Daddy, I drew a family picture today. Lily excitedly pulled a piece of paper from her backpack. On it were 3 wobbly figures drawn in crayon. This is you, this is Mommy, and this is me. Ethan knelt, carefully taking the drawing. This is amazing. Mommy might have to work late tonight. Is it okay if just Daddy has dinner with you? Lily's face fell, but Mommy promised she'd read me a new story tonight. Mommy's work is very important, Ethan said, stroking his daughter's soft hair. How about Daddy reads you 2 stories? Back home, Ethan heated up leftovers while listening to Lily chatter about her day. His phone buzzed incessantly with notifications from the team's Slack channel, where engineers were fiercely debating solutions. He settled Lily in her chair and quickly typed out a few key responses. Daddy, are you listening to me? Lily pouted. Ethan immediately put his phone down. Of course I am. You were saying that Mia brought a new toy to school, right? After dinner, Ethan gave Lily a bath and read her 2 picture books until she drifted off to sleep. He quietly closed her door and immediately opened his laptop, logging into the company's system remotely to continue debugging. At 11:40 p.m., the sound of a key turning in the lock echoed from the front door. Sarah walked in quietly. Seeing the lamp on in the living room and Ethan hunched over his work, she frowned slightly. Still awake. There's a critical bug I have to fix, Ethan said without looking up, his fingers flying across the keyboard. There are leftovers in the fridge. Wanting to heat them up. Sarah dropped her bag and sank onto the sofa, exhausted. No thanks. I had a working dinner with Julian. She massaged her temples. The interview was a huge success. He gave us some exclusive data. Mark was thrilled. Ethan's fingers paused for a second. Julian? As in the tech wunderkind, Julian Reed? Yes, the founder of Aura Tech, Sarah said, her voice suddenly energized. He's a business genius, founding a billion-dollar company by the time he was 30. He invited me to do an exclusive series on his startup journey. Ethan closed his laptop and turned to his wife. Lily asked for you several times today. She drew a family portrait. It's on your desk. A flicker of guilt crossed Sarah's face. I know I haven't been around enough this week, but this series is a huge opportunity. Julian is a major player in the industry. We talked about finding a better balance last week, Ethan said, his voice soft but firm. Lily's teacher spoke to me today. She said Lily keeps asking if Mommy doesn't want me anymore. Sarah's expression changed. Isn't the teacher overreacting? Lily knows I love her. As soon as I finish this series, I'll spend more time with her, I promise. It's been 7 years, Sarah. Ethan interrupted her. Ever since you became a financial reporter, it's always been, after this report is done, or after this project is finished. Lily is 5 years old. She needs a mother who is more than just a face in a photograph. Sarah shot up from the sofa. What's that supposed to mean? Am I not allowed to have a career? Do you have any idea how much I've had to sacrifice to make it in a field dominated by men? I know, and I've always supported you, Ethan said, his voice weary but calm. I turned down the offer from Google because it required relocating. I've passed on 3 promotions because they meant more travel. I never complained because I believed our family was worth those sacrifices. Sarah opened her mouth, but no words came out. She had never considered the choices Ethan had made behind the scenes. I'm not asking you to give up your career, he continued. I'm just asking you to be present while Lily is growing up, even if it's just for 1 or 2 days a week. Sarah's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It's Mark. I have to take this. Ethan watched silently as she walked out onto the balcony, her voice animated as she discussed the plans for the Julian Reed series. He quietly closed his laptop, laid out Lily's clothes and supplies for the next day, and then walked into the bathroom. As the hot water streamed over him, Ethan closed his eyes, letting the spray wash away the moisture gathering at their corners. After 7 years of marriage, he had never doubted his love for Sarah. But at this moment, a profound sense of powerlessness washed over him like a tidal wave. The next morning, Ethan prepared breakfast and took Lily to preschool as usual. Sarah was still asleep. She had worked until the early hours after a call. On the dining table, Lily's family portrait lay carelessly next to a stack of documents, already creased. Ethan carefully folded the drawing and tucked it into his briefcase. He kissed his daughter's rosy cheek. Daddy might be 10 minutes late picking you up today. I have a meeting with your teacher. Be a good girl, okay? Lily nodded, then asked suddenly, Daddy, does Mommy like work more than she likes playing with me? Ethan's heart clenched. He knelt down to look his daughter in the eye. Mommy loves you more than anything. It's just that her job is very demanding right now, just like Daddy has to work late sometimes. But that will never, ever change how much she loves you. Lily nodded, though she didn't seem convinced. Ethan felt a sting of pain. He knew that explanation was wearing thin, unable to even persuade a 5-year-old anymore. At the office, Ethan threw himself into his work, temporarily pushing aside his family troubles. During the lunch break, a colleague from HR brought a woman he'd never seen before to the engineering department. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Maya Chun. She's our new project consultant and will be helping us optimize the product testing process for the next 2 weeks. Ethan looked up. The woman standing next to the HR manager was around 30, dressed in a simple navy blue pantsuit, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Her eyes were sharp and focused. Ethan, Maya has extensive experience in automated testing. She should be a great help with our current stress testing issues, the HR manager added. Maya smiled and extended her hand. I've heard a lot about you, Mr. Miller. I look forward to working with you. Ethan shook her hand politely. Welcome aboard. I'll send you the project documentation this afternoon. He didn't notice that as he turned away, Maya's thoughtful gaze lingered on his tired back for a moment. Chapter 3. The night of the fever, Ethan stared at the error message on the screen, pressing his fingers into his temples. 3 straight days of high-intensity work had blurred his vision, but the system's stability was finally improving. His phone vibrated. The preschool teacher's name flashed on the screen. Mr. Miller, Lily says she feels dizzy and she's running a bit of a temperature. Can you come pick her up early? Ethan immediately closed his laptop. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Thanks for letting me know. He quickly packed his things and knocked on the adjacent office door. Frank, I have to go get Lily. I think she has a fever. Frank nodded. Go. We can deal with the rest tomorrow. He hesitated. What about Sarah? She has an important interview today, Ethan replied curtly, already heading for the elevator. At the preschool, Lily was slumped in a small chair, her face flushed. Ethan knelt down and pressed the back of his hand to her forehead. It was burning. Sweetheart, we're going to the hospital right now, he said softly, scooping her up. She immediately buried her hot face in his shoulder. In the car, Ethan started the engine while dialing Sarah's number. It rang 6 times before going to voicemail. Sarah, Lily has a high fever. I'm taking her to the children's hospital. Call me back as soon as you get this. The emergency room at the children's hospital was packed. Ethan held a drowsy Lily, waiting in the check-in line for 20 minutes. Her temperature had climbed to 102, 7 degrees Fahrenheit, and her small body writhed uncomfortably in his arms. "Just a little longer, sweetheart," Ethan whispered, dialing Sarah's number again. Still no answer. The doctor's initial diagnosis was influenza. He ordered a Tylenol and a blood test. Ethan navigated the crowded hospital corridors, holding Lily in one arm and a handful of forms in the other. Lily screamed and cried during the blood draw, and all he could do was hold her tight, his own heart aching. When the test results came back, the doctor's expression was serious. "Her white blood cell count is abnormal. It could be a secondary bacterial infection. We need to admit her for observation." Ethan felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. He steadied himself. "Is it serious? We'll start her on 4 antibiotics and see how her levels look tomorrow," the doctor said, scribbling on a chart. "Where's the child's mother? Some of these forms require a parent's signature." "She's at work." Ethan tried Sarah's number again. This time, it went straight to voicemail. "Can I sign? I'm her father." By the time he had finished the admission paperwork, it was 8 o'clock. Lily was lying in a hospital bed, and 4-line taped to the back of her small hand, already fast asleep. Ethan sat by her side and tried Sarah's number one more time. Still nothing. He opened his phone and saw a post Sarah had made on Instagram 6 hours ago. Exclusive interview with Auratech founder Julian Reed, reporting live from the Tech Innovators Summit tonight. The picture was of her and a man in a tailored suit standing in front of a luxury hotel, both holding champagne flutes, their smiles radiant. Ethan's thumb hovered over the like button for a few seconds before he closed the app. He opened his contacts and dialed another number. "Mom, Lily's in the hospital." "Yes, the flu led to a bacterial infection." "No, you don't need to come. I'll call if her fever doesn't break by tomorrow. Sarah's busy with work." "Okay, I'll call you if anything changes." After hanging up, Ethan stared out at the dark night sky, feeling a loneliness more profound than any he had ever known. The only sounds in the room were the rhythmic beeps of the monitor and Lily's faint breathing. A nurse came in to change the forebag and gave him a sympathetic look. "Do you want to go home and grab some things? The little one won't be waking up for a while." Ethan shook his head. "No, I'll stay with her." At 2 a.m., Lily's temperature suddenly shot up to 104 degrees F. She started talking in her sleep. The on-call doctor rushed in and adjusted her medication. Ethan held his daughter's burning hand, his heart pounding as he watched the medical staff move around her. "Daddy, Mommy," Lily mumbled in a semi-conscious state, tears slipping from the corners of her tightly shut eyes. "Mommy will be here soon, sweetheart," Ethan lied, his voice cracking. He dialed Sarah's number again. Still no answer. When a morning sun filtered through the blinds, Lily's temperature had finally dropped to around 100 degrees F. Ethan hadn't slept all night. His eyes were veined with red, and a dark stubble had appeared on his chin. The nurse brought in a small cup of oatmeal. Lily managed a few bites before falling back asleep. Ethan mechanically chewed on a stale pastry from the hospital cafeteria, tasteless in his mouth. At 9 o'clock, the door to the room swung open. Sarah rushed in, still wearing the dress from last night's event, though she'd thrown a jacket over it. Her makeup was smudged. "How is she?" she asked breathlessly, reaching for Lily's forehead. Ethan shot up, grabbing her wrist. "Do you have any idea how many times I called you?" His voice was low, but every word was laced with fury. Sarah had never seen him like this. His eyes burned with a cold fire, his jaw clenched tight. My phone was on silent. It was in my purse. I didn't hear it," Sarah said, pulling her hand away. "Julian introduced me to some very important investors. I couldn't answer a call about your sick daughter." Ethan's voice began to tremble. "Her fever hit 104. The doctor was worried about sepsis, and you were drinking champagne with that Julian guy." "Keep your voice down." Sarah glanced at the sleeping Lily and pulled Ethan into the hallway. "How was I supposed to know it was that serious? You take Lily to the doctor all the time. Is it your excuse?" Ethan stared at her in disbelief. "It's been 7 years, Sarah. When Lily was born premature, you were on a deadline. When she took her first steps, you were on a business trip. Now she's lying in a hospital bed, and you're laughing it up at some social event." Passing nurses and other patients' families started to stare. Sarah's face flushed. "I don't need you to judge me here. I have a job, a career I'm passionate about. What's wrong with that? No one said it's wrong to have a career. Ethan's voice rose, then he quickly lowered it again. What's wrong is that you always put your family last. What's wrong is that Lily was crying for her mother while you couldn't even be bothered to answer your phone. Guilt flickered in Sarah's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by defensive anger. Do you think I want this? Do you know how hard it is for a woman to get respect in financial media? This opportunity with Julian could put me in the running for senior correspondent. So that's your choice, Ethan said, his voice suddenly calm. It was a calm more chilling than his anger. Julian Reed and your career are more important than Lily. That's not what I meant, Sarah cried, tears welling in her eyes. I just go to work. Lily has me, Ethan said, turning back toward the room. It's been that way for the last 5 years, anyway. Sarah stood frozen, watching her husband's back disappear through the door. She wanted to run after him to explain, but the vibration of her phone stopped her. It was Mark, no doubt calling about last night's report. She looked at the hospital room door, then at her phone. She pressed the answer button. When Sarah re-entered the room after her call, Ethan was sitting by the bed, softly humming a lullaby. Lily was awake, leaning weakly against her father's chest, a small tissue clutched in her hand. Mommy! Lily's eyes lit up when she saw Sarah, but the excitement brought on a fit of coughing. Sarah rushed over. Sweetheart, Mommy's here. She reached for Lily, but the little girl clung tightly to Ethan's shirt. Lily, let Mommy hold you, okay? Ethan coaxed gently, tried to loosen her grip. Lily shook her head and buried her face in Ethan's chest. I want Daddy. Sarah's hands froze in midair. Her heart felt like it had been squeezed. She forced a smile. Is my baby girl mad at Mommy? I'm sorry, I've been so busy with work. Ethan didn't look at her. He just continued to pat Lily's back. The doctor said if her levels are normal, she can go home in a couple of days. I can take time off to stay with her, Sarah said suddenly. Ethan finally looked at her, his eyes filled with tired skepticism. Really? Of course, Sarah said, pulling out her phone. I'll message Mark right now. For the next 2 days, Sarah did stay at the hospital. Though she was constantly taking work calls and answering emails, she spent most of her time with Lily. Ethan went home to get fresh clothes and handle a few urgent work items, but otherwise stay by their side. On the second night, Lily's temperature finally returned to normal. The little girl lay between them, holding one of her father's hands and one of her mother's, a genuine smile on her face for the first time in days. Can you read me a story? Lily asked, looking hopefully at Sarah. Sarah glanced at a new text from Julian on her phone, hesitated for a moment, then put the phone down. Of course, Mommy will tell you the story of Snow White. Ethan watched his wife read to their daughter, and the anger in his heart began to subside. Maybe this was a turning point. Maybe Sarah finally understood what was important. After they got home, Sarah did adjust her work schedule. She canceled several evening events and even picked Lily up from preschool a few times. The house was filled with laughter again, and all 3 of them sat around the dinner table. But Ethan noticed Sarah's phone was always on, and she always replied to Julian's texts instantly. And sometimes, when she thought no one was looking, a particular expression would cross her face, a mix of anticipation and excitement that he hadn't seen directed at him in years. A week later, late at night, Ethan got up for a glass of water and saw the light on in the study. He walked over and saw Sarah smiling at her computer screen, her fingers typing rapidly. It was a video call. Julian Reed's handsome face filled half the screen. Ethan stood in the shadows of the doorway and heard Sarah's soft voice. I really appreciate your understanding. Lily being sick delayed the interview schedule. Don't worry about it. Julian's voice came through the speakers. A talented and beautiful woman like you deserves a bigger platform. That VP of media position at Aura, it's still yours if you want it. Ethan silently retreated into the darkness. He went back to the bedroom, lay down, and stared at the ceiling. For the first time, he seriously considered a question that had never crossed his mind before. Was their marriage already over? Ethan watched the cake in the oven, the clock hands ticking past 7 o'clock. Lily was slumped over the dining table, her cheek resting in her hand, surrounded by a mess of colored pencils and a half-finished birthday card. Daddy, when is Mommy coming home? Lily drew a wobbly heart on the card with a blue crayon. I want to surprise her. Ethan wiped flour from his hands and checked his phone. No new messages. 3 days ago, Sarah had mentioned she might be late tonight, But just last night, she had promised she would try her best to be home for dinner. It was her birthday, after all. Mommy's busy at work. Let's wait a little longer, Ethan said, stroking his daughter's soft hair. Want to practice the birthday song for her? Lily hopped off her chair and nodded eagerly. Ethan opened the voice recorder on his phone, and the little girl stood up straight, singing the entire birthday song in her sweet, childish voice, adding a heartfelt "I love you, Mommy" at the end. Ethan hit save, a bitter taste in his mouth. This was the third time this week a surprise Lily had prepared for her mother had fallen through. The clay vase she'd made in art class on Monday earned only a hurried glance from Sarah on her way out the door. On Wednesday, Lily had learned to write the word "Mommy" and had waited up until she fell asleep, but Sarah never came home. The oven timer dinged. Ethan pulled out the cake layers. He had taken a half day off work to make Sarah's favorite, a Black Forest cake, following a recipe he found online. It wasn't perfect, but the whipped cream was ready and the cherry compote was set. At 8 o'clock, Ethan's phone finally vibrated. It was a text from Sarah at the last-minute international video conference just came up. Julian scheduled a call with our Silicon Valley investors. Probably won't make it home. You guys eat without me. Ethan stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over the keyboard, but he didn't know what to write. Lily's expectant gaze felt like a knife in his heart. Sweetheart, Ethan knelt to meet his daughter's eyes. Mommy has something very important at work. She might not be able to come home for dinner. Lily's lower lip began to tremble, and her eyes welled up with tears. But we promised. I know. Ethan hugged her. How about this? Daddy will take you to Mommy's favorite restaurant, and we'll get a slice of her favorite tiramisu to go. We can celebrate with her when she gets back, okay? Lily reluctantly nodded, her small hand clutching the birthday card. Half an hour later, Ethan led Lily into La Dolce Vita, an Italian restaurant they frequented for their anniversary. Sarah always said the tiramisu there reminded her of their honeymoon in Venice. Mr. Miller, long time no see. Marco, the owner, greeted them warmly. A table for 3 tonight? Ethan forced a smile. Just me and my daughter. We're just getting a couple of desserts to go. Marco nodded knowingly and led them to a small table by the window. Have a seat. I'll have the kitchen make it fresh. Lily pressed her face against the window, then suddenly tugged on Ethan's sleeve. Daddy, is that Mommy? Ethan followed her gaze. In a semi-private booth in the back of the restaurant, Sarah was raising a glass of red wine. Across from her sat Julian Reed, impeccably dressed in a suit. Sarah was wearing a deep red dress Ethan had never seen before, her wavy hair cascading over her shoulders, glowing in the candlelight. Julian leaned forward, his fingers brushing against her wrist as if by accident. Both of them were smiling intimately. Ethan's blood ran cold. He instinctively blocked Lily's view. That's not Mommy, sweetheart. You're mistaken. It is Mommy, Lily insisted, already squirming out of her seat. I'm going to go see her. Ethan scooped her up in one motion. Lily, be good. Mommy is working. We can't disturb her. He rushed to the counter. Marco, we'll have to get the dessert another time. Something came up. Outside, the cool night air did little to soothe Ethan's burning cheeks. Lily was sobbing in his arms. Why is Mommy having dinner with someone else? It's her birthday. Ethan held his daughter tight, unable to answer. He walked home in a daze, gave Lily a bath, and read her a bedtime story without registering a single word he said. She finally fell asleep, clutching her birthday card, tear tracks still visible on her cheeks. Ethan sat in the dark living room, the ticking of the clock echoing in the silence. At 10 past midnight, the sound of a key finally turned in the lock. Sarah tiptoed in, startled to see Ethan on the sofa. You're still up? Ethan looked up, his gaze steady. Sarah's lipstick was smudged, and a faint scent of red wine and cologne, not her usual perfume, clung to her. Lily waited for you until 10, Ethan said, his voice terrifyingly calm. She made you a birthday card and practiced singing you the birthday song all week. A flash of guilt crossed Sarah's face, quickly replaced by defensiveness. I didn't expect the meeting to run so late. Julian said since I missed dinner, he should at least treat me to a birthday meal. At La Dolce Vita. Ethan suddenly laughed, a chilling sound that made Sarah's skin crawl. What a coincidence. I took Lily there to get you some tiramisu. We saw you and Julian having your camel at dinner. Sarah's face went white. You You saw it. Lily saw you, Ethan said, standing up and closing the distance between them. I had to lie to my 5-year-old daughter and tell her she was wrong, because I had no idea how to explain why her mother would rather spend her birthday with another man than come home to the surprise her daughter had prepared. It wasn't like that. Sarah's voice rose. It was a business dinner. Julian introduced me to several key investors. This is huge for my career. Enough. Ethan cut her off, his voice low but powerful. It's been 7 years, Sarah. It's always work, your career a big opportunity. I understand your ambition. I support your career, but today was your own birthday. Lily has been planning this for a week, and you... He choked on his words, the image of Julian touching Sarah's wrist flashing in his mind. Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and instinctively turned her back to him. The small movement was like a knife in Ethan's heart. Go on, answer it. Don't keep your important investor waiting, Ethan said, turning toward the bedroom. I'm going to sleep with Lily. Happy birthday, Sarah. Sarah stood frozen, her phone vibrating in her hand. She watched Ethan's back disappear and suddenly realized that something had irrevocably broken that night. The next morning, Ethan made breakfast and took Lily to preschool as usual. Sarah was home, a rare occurrence, but they barely spoke. When Ethan returned from the drop-off, Sarah was gone. A note was left on the table. I'll be home early tonight. We need to talk. Ethan threw the note in the trash. At the office, he mechanically sorted through his emails. The system optimization project was in its final stages, but he couldn't focus. The images from last night kept replaying in his head. Sarah's smile in the candlelight, Julian's intimate touch, Lily's heartbroken tears. Mr. Miller, a woman's voice broke his concentration. Ethan looked up to see Maya Chun standing in his doorway, holding a stack of files. She was wearing a simple white blouse and a black pencil skirt, her hair pulled back neatly, exuding an air of competence. The test reports are out. I wanted to discuss some of the results with you, Maya said, her voice crisp and professional. Ethan nodded and motioned for her to sit. Maya quickly pointed out several system bottlenecks and offered a few suggestions for optimization. He was surprised by how sharp and insightful her technical analysis was. Have you worked on similar project before? Ethan asked. Maya smiled faintly. I was an automation test engineer in Silicon Valley for 3 years. After coming back, I found that the testing phase isn't always given the importance it deserves here. They talked for nearly an hour, their conversation drifting from system architecture to algorithm optimization. Ethan realized it had been a long time since he'd had such an engaging technical discussion. After Sarah's career took off, he had deliberately cut back on overtime and travel, gradually withdrawing from the industry's tech circles. Mr. Miller, if you don't mind me asking, Maya said as their meeting concluded, is something bothering you lately? Ethan was taken aback. Why do you ask? Occupational hazard, Maya said, gesturing to her eyes. A test engineer learns to spot anomalies. Your professional input today was flawless, but your eyes kept drifting and you were tapping the desk at a rate of 120 times per minute, a classic sign of anxiety. Ethan was speechless, unsure whether to be impressed by her observation or embarrassed at being so transparent. Sorry, I overstepped, Maya said, standing up. I just thought maybe talking about it would help. I'll bring the revised test plan tomorrow. As she turned to leave, Ethan suddenly spoke. Do you believe it's possible for someone to completely separate their work and personal life? Maya turned back, thinking for a moment. In theory, yes. But in practice, it's difficult. Time is a finite resource. When you give more to one, the other inevitably gets less. She paused. My father was a workaholic. He was absent for most of my childhood. Now that I'm an adult, he's trying to make up for it. But some things, once missed, are gone forever. Ethan looked at her calm expression and felt a strange sense of kinship. After work, Ethan didn't go straight home. He drove to the preschool and sat in his car, watching Lily play with her friends on the playground. When she saw him, she came running, throwing herself into his arms. Daddy, the teacher praised my drawing today, Lily said, waving a piece of paper. I drew our whole family at the zoo. Ethan looked at the 3 stick figures holding hands and felt a lump in his throat. He knelt down, carefully folded the drawing, and placed it in his inside pocket. It's beautiful. Let's go home and show Mommy, okay? Will Mommy be home today? Lily asked, her small face tilted up to his. Ethan remembered the note Sarah had left. She said she would. Back home, Ethan made spaghetti with marinara sauce, Lily's favorite. 7 o'clock, 8, then 9. Sarah didn't show up. No call, no text. Lily fell asleep on the sofa waiting for her, the drawing still clutched in her small hand. Ethan carried his daughter to her bed, gently prying the paper from her fingers. He sat in the dark living room, his phone screen lighting up and going dark again. No new messages. At 11:30, the lock finally turned. Sarah walked in, looking exhausted. She seemed surprised to see him. You're still up? You said you'd be home early, Ethan said, his voice flat. Lily waited for you all evening. She wanted to show you her drawing. Sarah put down her bag and rubbed her temples. I'm sorry, Julian had a last minute. Don't bother, Ethan said, standing up. I'm going to bed. Lily has a school event tomorrow. I've already taken a day off. As he walked past her, he caught the familiar scent of that other man's cologne. This time, he didn't stop. Chapter 5. The secret in the drawer. Ethan searched every drawer in the study. Lily's vaccination record was here just last week. The preschool required it for her appointment tomorrow. Wiping sweat from his brow, his eyes landed on the bottom drawer of Sarah's desk, the one she always jokingly called her secret stash. Sorry about this, Ethan muttered, pulling it open. The first thing he saw was an elegant, dark blue velvet jewelry box with a gleaming designer logo. Ethan frowned. He hadn't bought her anything from this brand. Inside was a diamond necklace, the pendant catching the light with a blinding sparkle. The receipt was tucked beside it, the price making Ethan suck in a sharp breath. It was 3 months of his salary. Underneath the box were several photos. Ethan pulled them out, his hands shaking. In the photos, Sarah and Julian Reed were at a high-end restaurant. Julian was fastening that very necklace around Sarah's neck, and she was beaming, a genuine, radiant smile Ethan hadn't seen in a long time. The last photo was a selfie of the two of them, Julian's lips almost touching her cheek. Ethan threw the photos on the desk, his chest heaving. He rummaged further and finally found Lily's vaccination record in the back. As he was about to close the drawer, a hotel key card slid out. The gold-embossed logo of the Fairmont San Francisco was unmistakable. What are you looking for? Sarah's voice came from the doorway. Ethan spun around. His wife was standing there, still in the evening gown from last night's awards dinner, her makeup smudged. Her gaze shifted from the vaccination record in his hand to the open drawer, then to the scattered photos. Her face went pale. What is this? Ethan held up the photos, his voice low and dangerous. Sarah rushed forward and snatched them from his hand. How could you go through my things? I was looking for Lily's vaccination record, Ethan said, his words slow and deliberate. Now please explain these photos. And the necklace. Sarah shoved the photos back into the drawer and took a deep breath. It was a birthday gift from Julian. It was for work. He's backing a new jewelry line, and he wanted me to write a promotional piece. He gave it to me as a sample for reference. A sample? Ethan let out a cold laugh and picked up the receipt. A $5,000 sample? And these pictures, were they for work too? That was just a polite thank you. Sarah's voice rose. You know the etiquette for these social events, Julian's status in the industry. Then what about this? Ethan held up the hotel key card. Is this also social etiquette? Sarah's face changed. That's from the industry summit last week. It was a hospitality suite key. All the media had one. Ethan stared into his wife's eyes, the eyes he once knew so well, now filled with evasion and deceit. A wave of profound exhaustion washed over him. Sarah, he said, his voice suddenly calm. Do you remember what you promised when we got married? Sarah froze, her fingers twisting together. Of course I do. No, you've forgotten, Ethan said softly. You promised that no matter how busy we got, we would always be honest with each other. For years, I've supported your career, taken on most of the household chores and childcare, and never complained. But I cannot accept being lied to. I'm not lying to you. A hint of panic flashed in her eyes. This is all for my job. You have no idea about the unwritten rules of this industry. Ethan shook his head and picked up the vaccination record. I'm taking Lily to get her shot tomorrow. You, do what you want. He turned to leave. Sarah's voice, thick with tears, followed him. Ethan, is that how little you trust me? He didn't turn back. Trust? He thought about Sarah's awards dinner last night. When she was on stage accepting the Financial Journalist of the Year award, Julian's hand had rested on the small of her back just a little too long. He remembered leaving early, and Sarah hadn't even noticed he was gone. In Lily's room, the little girl was at her small table, concentrating on a drawing. Ethan stood in the doorway, watching her, the anger in his heart slowly subsiding. No matter what, he still had Lily. "Daddy." Lily looked up and saw him, holding up her paper. "Look at my family picture." The drawing showed 3 stick figures holding hands. The little girl in the middle wore pigtails and a huge smile. Ethan's eyes burned. He knelt down and hugged his daughter. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Mommy will love it." "When is Mommy coming home?" Lily asked hopefully. "I want to show her." Ethan glanced at his watch. 8:30 p.m. "Mommy's busy with work. She might be home late. Let's get you ready for bed, and you can show her in the morning, okay?" After Lily's bath and bedtime story, Ethan sat by her bed until she fell asleep. She had fought to stay awake, waiting for her mother. She finally drifted off, the drawing clutched in her hand. Ethan gently removed the paper and placed it on her nightstand. When he returned to their bedroom, Sarah wasn't there. Her suitcase was open on the bed, several of her business outfits neatly folded inside. On the nightstand was a note. "Last-minute trip to a financial summit in New York. Back in 3 days. Julian arranged an exclusive interview I can't miss. Please explain to Lily. S." Ethan crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. He opened the closet. Several of Sarah's favorite dresses were gone, including the deep red one she had worn on her birthday. His phone buzzed. A message from Frank. "Ethan, can you come in early tomorrow? The QA team found new issue. Maya says she needs an architect to look at it." Ethan typed back his agreement. At least his work wouldn't betray him. The next morning, after dropping Lily at preschool, Ethan went straight to the office. In the conference room, Maya-chan was writing test cases on the whiteboard. She nodded as he entered. "Ethan, thanks for coming in," she said, her voice professional and calm. "We found a connection pool leak in the database during stress testing. It's causing the system to crash under simulated high concurrency." Ethan walked to the whiteboard, studying her architecture diagram. Maya's finger traced a path through several key nodes. Her nails were neatly trimmed, clean of the elaborate polish Sarah favored, exuding a practical elegance. "I suspect there's a problem with the connection release mechanism," Maya continued. The faint scent of jasmine from her perfume reached him. Ethan forced himself to focus. "What testing tool are you using?" "JMeter with a custom plugin," she said, pulling up the report on her laptop. "Here's the detailed data." They dove into the problem, and before they knew it, lunchtime had passed. Frank poked his head in, holding 3 takeout boxes. "All right, you 2 experts take a break. You need fuel to debug." Only then did Ethan realize how hungry he was. Maya thanked Frank and skillfully broke apart a pair of disposable chopsticks. He noticed her movements were efficient and unpretentious. "Ethan, wasn't Lily's vaccination appointment today?" Maya asked suddenly. "I think I remember you mentioning it yesterday." Ethan paused. "It was this morning. I took a couple of hours off." Was she brave? Maya smiled faintly. "My nephew screamed the place down last time." Ethan thought of Lily trying so hard not to cry at the clinic, and the corners of his mouth turned up. She only cried for a second. The nurse said she was the bravest kid of the day. Frank looked at them curiously. "Ethan, didn't know you and Maya talked about family stuff. I thought you hated bringing your personal life to work." Ethan felt a little awkward, but Maya smoothly answered, "Kids from single-parent homes often have to be tougher. I grew up with just my mom, so I get what it's like having to be brave early." "Your father?" Ethan asked without thinking. "My mother," Maya corrected, a shadow passing through her eyes. "My father was a classic workaholic. He chose his career and moved abroad when I was 10. My mother raised me on her own." Ethan was silent for a moment. Lily is basically being raised by a single parent, most of the time. He regretted the words as soon as they left his mouth. It was too personal. But Maya just nodded, not pressing for details or offering excessive sympathy, which made Ethan feel strangely comfortable. The afternoon's troubleshooting was more complex than expected. By 8 p.m., only Ethan and Maya were left in the office. Just as he was about to suggest they continue tomorrow, Maya exclaimed, "Found it." She pointed excitedly at a block of code on the screen. Look here. The connection state isn't being reset before it's released. Ethan leaned closer, his shoulder almost touching hers. The scent of jasmine returned, subtle and calming, so different from the overpowering perfume Sarah wore. You're right, Ethan said, his fingers flying across the keyboard to make the change. Let's run a test. The test passed perfectly. Ethan leaned back in his chair, letting out a long breath. Finally. Thank you, Maya. You can call me Maya, she said, packing up her laptop. Actually, I know you've been having some trouble at home lately. Ethan stiffened. Did Lily tell you something? No. Maya gestured to her eyes. A tester's observation. You've been wearing the same tie all week, and your shirts have been wrinkled, which never used to happen. And she hesitated. The way you look at your phone, it's like you're waiting for a message that's never going to come. Ethan gave a bitter smile. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who's paying attention, Maya said softly. My father had that same look before he left. They walked out of the office building in silence. The night air was cool. Maya spoke suddenly. Sometimes, letting go isn't failure. It's giving yourself and the other person a chance to start over. Ethan turned to look at her. In the moonlight, the lines of her face were soft but resolute. He was about to say something, but his phone rang. It was a reminder from the preschool about the parent-child field day tomorrow. Do you need a ride? Maya asked. You look exhausted. Ethan shook his head. No, I'm good. Thanks. See you tomorrow. Back at the empty apartment, the silence was deafening. Ethan quietly opened Lily's door. The little girl was fast asleep, hugging the teddy bear he had given her for his last birthday. On a nightstand, the family portrait was gone. He searched the room and finally found the crumpled drawing in Lily's small backpack. She had clearly been carrying it with her, waiting to show her mother. The three stick figures were now separated by deep creases, a stark symbol of their fracturing family. He carefully smoothed out the paper and placed it back on her nightstand. Then he sat beside his daughter's bed, watching her peaceful face, and made a decision. 3 days later, Sarah returned, bearing a Disney princess doll for Lily and a designer tie for him. Ethan accepted the gifts calmly, then handed her a document. What's this? Sarah asked, her expression changing as she read the cover. Divorce papers? Ethan, are you insane? I've never been more clear-headed, Ethan said, his voice unervingly calm. Lily stays with me. You can have visitation, but I get full custody. Because of a necklace and a few pictures? Sarah's voice began to tremble. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Ethan shook his head. It's not about the necklace, Sarah. It's about 7 years of you choosing your work over your family. It's because Lily had a 104-degree fever while you were drinking champagne with Julian Reed. It's because on your own birthday, you chose a candlelit dinner with him over coming home to the surprise your daughter made for you. I can change, Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. It's too late, Ethan said softly. I've already spoken to a lawyer. The house is yours. We split the savings. I just want Lily. Sarah collapsed onto the sofa, the papers scattering on the floor. You found someone else, haven't you? That new consultant. Ethan let out a cold laugh. Not everyone is like you, Sarah. My relationship with Maya is purely professional. He turned and walked toward Lily's room, his final words hanging in the air. Let me know when you've signed. Until then, Lily and I will be staying somewhere else. #, Chapter 6. The empathy of a single parent. Ethan stood outside the preschool director's office, unconsciously rubbing the edge of his phone. Through the glass, he could see Lily sitting in a corner, her little hands twisting the hem of her dress. Her eyes were red, as if she'd just been crying. Mr. Miller, please come in, Ms. Davison said, opening the door with a look of professional concern. Ethan walked in and knelt to hug Lily, but she shied away, hiding her face behind a stuffed animal. His heart clenched. During free play today, Lily said some troubling things, Ms. Davison said, choosing her words carefully. She said, Mommy doesn't want me anymore, and she tore up one of her drawings. Our school counselor tried to speak with her, but she refused to talk. Ethan looked at his daughter. Lily loved to draw. She always proudly showed off her creations. Now, shredded pieces of paper littered the floor around her feet. He could just make out the shape of a family of 3. Lily, sweetheart, Ethan called softly, reaching out to stroke her hair. Humiliate. Lily suddenly looked up, her big eyes swimming with tears. She said she would come on my show, but she didn't. Mia's mommy was there. Everyone's mommy was there but mine. A lump formed in Ethan's throat. Mommy's work is very important, but she loves you. Ethan repeated the line he'd said 100 times, but for the first time, it felt hollow and weak. I don't want mommy anymore. Lily burst into tears. I just want daddy. Ethan pulled his daughter into his arms, feeling her small body shake with sobs. He looked up at Ms. Davison. I'll handle this. I'm sorry for causing any trouble. Mr. Miller, the director, hesitated. This is the third time this semester Lily has had an emotional outburst. She just got over that fever, and for the past 2 weeks, she's been having nightmares during nap time. We recommend a more stable home environment. Ethan nodded, picked up the still crying Lily, and left the preschool. On the way home, Lily fell asleep in her car's seat, tear stains on her lashes. Ethan pulled over and gently wiped her face. His phone vibrated. A text from Sarah. Interview got extended. Probably won't be back until the weekend. Tell Lily happy birthday for me. Her gift is in my drawer. Ethan stared at the screen and laughed, a bitter, desperate sound. Today was Lily's 5th birthday. He had ordered her favorite My Little Pony cake and invited a few of her friends from the neighborhood over for a party. And Sarah, once again, had forgotten. Back home, Ethan gently laid the sleeping Lily in her bed. He went into the study and pulled out a storage box from the bottom of the bookshelf. 7 years of marriage, packed away. On top were photos from their honeymoon. A young Sarah beaming on a gondola in Venice, a time when she would still drop everything for a home-cooked meal. Underneath was a journal where he documented Lily's milestones. Her first smile, her first time rolling over, her first steps. Most entries were marked with a note. Mom was on a business trip, or Mom worked late. He opened the most recent photo album, filled with Lily's drawings. On the back of each, he had carefully noted the date and context. One was especially crumpled. It was the first family portrait Lily had ever drawn. Sarah had carelessly shoved it into her briefcase, and it came back creased and torn. She had brushed it off as an accident, but now Ethan wondered if she had ever truly cared about her daughter's efforts. The phone rang. It was Frank. Ethan, can you come into the office tomorrow? The execs from corporate are coming to review the project, and they want the CTO there. Ethan rubbed his temples. I took 3 days off for Lily's birthday. I know, but this is really important, Frank said apologetically. Maya has the test reports ready, but you know those old suits. They only listen to you. Ethan glanced toward Lily's room. I'll come in for the morning, but I have to be back in the afternoon. After the call, he returned to the box. At the very bottom was a stack of yellowed papers, a printout of the rejected Google offer, records of the 3 promotions he'd turned down, the hospital admission form he signed when Lily was born premature. Sarah was covering an international finance forum. Each document was a paper cut on his heart, revealing a brutal truth. In this marriage, he had been the only one compromising, the only one sacrificing. Late that night, Ethan sat on the living room sofa, the draft of the divorce agreement from his lawyer open on the coffee table. His phone lit up. A message from Maya. Heard you have to come in tomorrow. The test reports are ready, but there are some technical details you might need to clarify. By the way, if you need help getting things for Lily's party, I have experience organizing kids' events. A warmth spread through Ethan's chest. Maya was always like that, offering just the right amount of help at just the right time, never overstepping but never cold. He texted back his thanks, but politely declined her offer. He wanted to do this for Lily himself. The next morning, Ethan brought Lily to the office. She was wearing her favorite blue dress and clutching a My Little Pony doll he had stayed up late making for her. She seemed to be in better spirits. Daddy has to work for a little bit. Can you play with Miss Thompson in the break room? Ethan knelt to fix the bow in her hair. The office secretary was an older woman who adored Lily. Lily nodded, then asked, Is Mommy coming to my party? Ethan's hand paused. Mommy has to work. Oh, Lily said, looking down. I know. In the conference room, Ethan's mind was elsewhere as he mechanically answered questions from the corporate executives. Maya sat beside him, chiming in with testing data when needed. Her voice was clear and professional, allowing him to occasionally drift off and think about the party plans. After the meeting, Maya quietly handed him a note. Surprise in the break room. Confused, Ethan walked over and pushed open the door. He froze. The small room was decorated with colorful balloons. The secretary and a few other female colleagues were gathered around Lily, singing happy birthday. On the table was a beautiful cake, not the one he had ordered, decorated with all of Lily's favorite cartoon characters. Ethan looked in amazement at Maya, who had followed him in. Just a little something from your colleagues, Maya said with a smile. They heard the little princess was celebrating her birthday today. Someone in marketing knows a baker. Lily ran to him, ecstatic. Daddy, look at my cake. It has Princess Elsa and Peppa Pig. Ethan picked up his daughter, his eyes full of gratitude as he looked at Maya. Thank you all so much. Don't thank me. It was a team effort, Maya said softly. I used to spend a lot of birthdays alone as a kid. I know what it feels like. He saw a familiar flicker of sadness in her eyes, the look of a child from a single-parent home. In that moment, he felt a strange kinship, as if Maya understood his situation better than anyone. The party that afternoon was a success. 5 kids from her neighborhood came, and Lily laughed until her cheeks were red. Ethan took dozens of photos and sent them to Sarah. He received no reply. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Ethan sat on the balcony and, for the first time, seriously contemplated life after divorce. His lawyer said he had a strong case, especially with testimony from the preschool director and records of Lily's emotional issues. But the thought of telling Lily that Mommy and Daddy were separating felt like a stone on his chest. His phone vibrated. A message from Maya. Hope Lily enjoyed her surprise. A child's smile is the most precious gift. He replied, she was overjoyed. Thank you. You seem to really like kids. My sister passed away a few years ago, and my nephew lived with me for 2 years. His father eventually remarried and moved away, but those 2 years were the most fulfilling of my life. Ethan stared at the message, suddenly understanding the quality in Maya that made him feel so at ease. She understood what real family responsibility meant, not a bond of blood, but of daily presence and sacrifice. That weekend, Sarah finally returned, carrying an expensive electronic keyboard for Lily and a face etched with exhaustion. At the sight of her mother, Lily first ran for a hug, then abruptly stopped and hid behind Ethan. Lily, Sarah asked, confused. Mommy brought you a present. I don't want a present, Lily whispered. I want Mommy to be home. Sarah's expression froze. She looked at Ethan, her eyes accusatory. What did you say to her? I only told her the truth, Ethan replied calmly. She's 5. She understands more than you think. Sarah knelt down to hug Lily, but the little girl clung to Ethan's leg. Defeated, Sarah placed the keyboard on the sofa and turned to Ethan. We need to talk. In the bedroom, Sarah closed the door. Are you really doing this? Ethan nodded. Did you read the agreement? Ethan, her voice rose. Because I'm busy with work? Do you know how competitive this industry is? If I let up for a second, I'll be replaced. It's not because you're busy, Ethan said, his voice eerily calm. It's because you chose Julian Reed over me and Lily. Sarah's face went white. What were you talking about? The Fairmont San Francisco. Room 3206, Ethan said, looking directly into her eyes. Last Wednesday night, you told me you were at an interview, remember? Sarah's lips trembled. You followed me. No, Ethan said with a bitter smile. The credit card charge notification for a couple spa package was sent to my email. Sarah collapsed onto the bed, her hands covering her face. It was a moment of weakness. He was so nice to me, he appreciated my talent. And I don't, Ethan asked softly. In 7 years, when have I ever not supported your career? Sarah was silent, tears dripping onto her manicured hands. Sign the papers, Sarah, Ethan said, turning toward the door. For Lily's sake, let's at least end this with some dignity. And if I refuse? Sarah suddenly looked up. What if I fight for custody? Ethan's hand paused on the doorknob. He didn't turn back. Then I will present the hotel records and the reports of Lily's emotional distress at preschool to the court. Do you really want it to come to that? He could hear Sarah's suppressed sobs behind him, but he didn't turn around. He closed the door gently and walked into the living room, where Lily was sitting on the floor, curiously poking at the new keyboard. Want to try it, sweetheart? Ethan knelt beside her. Lily shook her head and leaned against him. Daddy, will you always be with me? Ethan held her tight. I promise. The next day, Ethan took Lily to an indoor amusement park downtown. He hadn't had a chance to take her out for fun in months. Lily excitedly dragged him to every ride, her laughter echoing as they went around and around on the carousel. Ethan, what a coincidence. A familiar voice came from behind him. He turned to see Maya, Chun holding the hand of a little boy about Lily's age. Both were wearing silly Mickey Mouse ears. Maya, this is my nephew Leo, Maya introduced with a smile. Since my sister passed, I try to take him out for a special day every week. Leo shyly hid behind Maya, but Lily peeked out from behind Ethan. Your Mickey ears light up. So do yours. Leo pointed at the matching headband on Lily's head. The two children quickly hit it off. Ethan and Maya shared a smile and fell in a step behind them. I didn't picture you as an amusement park kind of guy, Maya said, watching the two kids chattering ahead. Ethan smiled. Lily loves it. He paused. Thank you for yesterday's surprise. My colleagues were very thoughtful. Actually, Maya hesitated. It was my idea. The secretary mentioned it was Lily's birthday, and it reminded me of my own childhood, so I took the liberty. Ethan looked at her, surprised. The sun filtering through the trees cast dappled light on her face, making her look soft and warm. He suddenly realized that for the first time in months, his mind was quiet and at peace. The preschool is having its annual field day next week. Ethan heard himself say, if you and Leo are interested. Maya's eyes lit up. We'd love that. Leo has been wanting a playmate. On the subway ride home, Lily dozed off against his chest. Daddy, she mumbled sleepily. Is that pretty lady your new girlfriend? Ethan almost choked. No, sweetheart. She's just a colleague. Oh, Lily sounded slightly disappointed. I like her. She gave me candy. Ethan stroked his daughter's hair and didn't answer. But in a quiet corner of his mind, a small thought began to take root. Maybe, just maybe, after all of this was over, life could hold new possibilities. Hashtag Chapter 7, Shattered Trust. Sarah cut her Hong Kong trip short. 3 consecutive days of torrential rain had forced the cancellation of her interviews, and she'd rebooked the earliest flight home. On the plane, she kept replaying the look on Ethan's face when he'd asked for a divorce, a quiet resolve that was far more terrifying than any rage. The sound of her key in a lock was unnervingly loud in the empty apartment. She dragged her suitcase inside, surprised to find the place empty. The clock on the wall read 3:00 p.m. Ethan should have been home with Lily by now. Lily? Ethan? She called out. Only the low hum of the refrigerator answered. Dropping her luggage, Sarah headed for the bedroom to change. As she passed the study, she noticed the door was ajar and heard the rustle of papers. Ethan, are you? She pushed the door open, her words dying in her throat. Ethan stood with his back to her at the desk, a stack of documents spread out before him. He spun around at the sound of her voice, a pen still in his hand, a flash of panic on his face. You're back early, he stammered. Sarah's eyes fell on the document on the desk. Even from a distance, the title was unmistakable, Divorce Agreement. The air turned to ice. A hot rush of blood flooded her head. The handle of her suitcase slipped from her numb fingers and crashed to the floor. You're actually going through with this? Her voice was a trembling whisper. Ethan was silent for a moment before he gently closed the file. I thought we had an understanding. One understanding. Sarah's voice suddenly rose to a shout. You making a unilateral decision to end our marriage is an understanding. She strode forward and snatched the papers. Among the dense clauses, the line, full physical custody of the child shall be granted to the father, stabbed her in the eyes. Lily is my daughter. Sarah was practically screaming now. What makes you think I would ever give up custody? Ethan's expression hardened. The fact that you've missed 3/4 of her birthdays for the past 3 years. The fact that you've missed her parent-teacher conferences 2 years in a row. The fact that when she had a 104-degree fever, you were drinking champagne with Julian Reed. I told you that was a misunderstanding. Sarah slammed the papers down on the desk. And what right do you have to judge me? If it weren't for me working myself to the bone, where would this house have come from? How would we afford Lily's private preschool? Ethan suddenly laughed, a cold, bitter sound that chilled her to the bone. You think I care about any of that? The Google offer I turned down 7 years ago came with double my current salary. I passed on 3 promotions just so I could have time to be there for Lily. He pulled a notebook from a drawer. Do you know what this is? Sarah stared at the plain black notebook, confused. I've recorded every one of Lily's milestones since the day she was born. Ethan opened it. Her first smile, the first time she rolled over, her first steps, and next to every entry, I noted where you were. He flipped to a random page. Here, June 15th, 2018. Lily said mama for the first time. Where were you? In Berlin, covering a finance summit. He flipped again. December 3rd, 2019. Lily's first day of preschool. You were in New York at a forum. Sarah's hands began to shake. I didn't know you were keeping track. Oh, it gets better. Ethan's voice grew colder. He took another folder from the bookshelf. Here are the records of the promotions I turned down. Here are the invitations to tech conferences I declined because you were traveling and Lily needed at least one parent at home. He turned to his computer and pulled up a spreadsheet. And this is a log of every time Lily has been sick in the last 3 years. 17 times. I took her to the doctor alone 15 of those times. Of the 2 times you were there, you spent one of them on a work call in the hallway. A wave of dizziness washed over Sarah. She had to grip the edge of the desk to stay upright. These numbers, these records, were a merciless mirror reflecting a reality she had never let herself see. You've been collecting all of this. Just for today, she choked out. Ethan shook his head. No, I recorded all this because I thought one day, when you asked me what Lily was like as a baby, I could show you how she grew up. He gave a bitter smile. But you never asked. Sarah's tears finally broke free. This isn't fair. You never told me you gave up so much. I tried to tell you, Sarah, he said, his voice suddenly filled with exhaustion. Every time you said just a little longer after this project is over, I'll make it up to you both next time. It's been 7 years. I don't believe in next time anymore. Sarah sank into the chair, tears blurring her vision. She noticed another item on the desk, a photograph. It was of Ethan, Lily, and Maya-chan at the amusement park. Lily stood between them, holding both their hands, smiling brighter than the sun. Is it her? Sarah pointed at the photo, her voice sharp. Are you doing this because of that woman? Ethan's expression was unreadable. Maya is just a colleague. But to be honest, she's probably spent more time playing with Lily than you have. The words were a dagger to her heart. She shot up and swept the photo to the floor. I'm not signing anything. Lily is my daughter. I won't let you replace me. Replace you? Ethan's voice rose. Sarah, when were you ever really her mother? Lily's first family portrait, which you crumpled in your purse? The Mother's Day card she made, which you left in a drawer at your office? The fact that she was burning with a 104-degree fever while you were on a date with another man. It wasn't a date. It was work, she shrieked, but even she could hear the lie in her own voice. Ethan shook his head, bent down to pick up the photo, and carefully placed it back in a drawer. I've already found a temporary place. I'm moving out with Lily tomorrow. My lawyer will be in touch to discuss the details. You can't do this. Sarah grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his flesh. Give me another chance. I can change. I can cut back on work. He gently pried her hand off. It's too late, Sarah. Trust is like glass. Once it's shattered, you can't put it back together. Sarah suddenly dropped to her knees, wrapping her arms around his legs. Please, don't take Lily. She's all I have. Ethan stood frozen, looking down at the woman who had once been so proud, now sobbing at his feet. For a split second, he almost gave in, but then he heard Lily's voice in his head. Mommy doesn't want me anymore. The choice is yours, Ethan said, slowly backing away. If you insist on fighting for custody, we'll see each other in court. But think about Lily. She needs stability and presence, not a legal battle. Sarah collapsed on the floor, a mess of tears and snot, her perfectly styled hair now stuck to her wet cheeks. She watched Ethan calmly gather his files, a chilling thought dawning on her. This man, who had once catered to her every whim, was now looking at her breakdown with nothing but pity. Did you ever love me? She asked suddenly, her voice hoarse. Ethan paused his packing and looked at her, truly looked at her. I did, deeply. But love needs to be nurtured by 2 people. Sarah, I held on by myself for so long. There's nothing left. He picked up his laptop bag and walked to the door. I'll pick Lily up from preschool and take her straight to the new place. You need time to think. So do I. The click of the closing door was not loud, but it sounded like thunder in Sarah's ears. She knelt in the empty study, finally, truly understanding. She was about to lose them forever. After what felt like an eternity, Sarah forced herself to her feet and stumbled into Lily's room. The small pink bed was neatly made, the desk adorned with coloring books and crayons. The walls were covered in Lily's drawings. Most were of a family of 3, but the most recent ones showed only a father and a daughter. Sarah sat on the little bed and hugged her daughter's pillow, inhaling deeply. It still smelled faintly of Lily. Her tears started again, soaking the pillowcase. She opened the nightstand drawer, looking for a tissue, and found a few crumpled pieces of paper. She smoothed them out. It was Lily's clumsy handwriting. "I want to be with Mommy. Why doesn't Mommy come home? I love Mommy." Each note looked like it had been written with immense effort, some of the letters backward. A violent pain seized Sarah's heart. She clutched the notes to her chest, curled into a ball on Lily's bed, and cried like a child. At 10 o'clock, her phone rang, jolting her awake. She fumbled for it. The screen read Julian Reed. In an instant, all her grief and regret morphed into white-hot rage. "What?" she answered, her voice like ice. "Sarah, I heard you were back early." Julian's voice was as charming as ever. "Perfect timing. There's a private party tomorrow night. Some major VCs will be there. I wanted to introduce you." "Julian," Sarah interrupted, "how many times did we sleep together?" There was a stunned silence on the other end. "What? 3? 4? She continued, her voice unnervingly calm. "Was it worth my marriage and my daughter?" "Sarah, calm down." Julian's tone became cautious. "Did Ethan find out something? I can explain." "Don't bother explaining," Sarah said with a cold laugh. "I just realized something. You never actually respected me, did you? I was just another one of your conquests. A trophy. The financial journalist I bagged. That's ridiculous." Julian's voice was laced with the anger of being exposed. "I thought we were 2 consenting adults." Sarah hung up and threw the phone aside. She walked into the master bedroom and looked at the wedding photo on the wall. In it, she was radiant in a white dress, Ethan looking at her with a gaze full of adoration. She suddenly remembered what he had whispered to her on their wedding day. "No matter how busy we get, let's always remember why we started." Sarah knelt by the bed and buried her face in the comforter. It no longer smelled like him. She finally understood. Her marriage hadn't died a sudden death. She had killed it, slowly, with 1,000 cuts of neglect and selfishness. And by the time she realized it, Ethan was already gone. Hashtag Chapter 8. A Broken Home. Sarah stood in front of the children's clothing store, her eyes fixed on a light blue dress in the window. Blue was Lily's favorite color, and this one had her beloved My Little Pony characters on it. The sales clerk had already glanced her way 3 times. Finally, Sarah pushed the door open. "That dress in a size 5, please," she said, pointing to the display. She grabbed a matching set of hair clips and socks from a nearby rack. "And these too?" At the checkout, she saw a set of Mommy and Me t-shirts. She hesitated for a second, then added the World's Best Mom and World's Best Kid set to her pile. The weight of the shopping bags dug into her wrist, but Sarah didn't feel it. It had been 2 weeks since Ethan and Lily had moved out. She had tried calling, texting, even waiting outside the preschool, but Ethan had maintained a polite but firm distance. Lily was always thrilled to see her, but it was an excitement tinged with a desperate fear that she might disappear again, which broke Sarah's heart every time. Her phone buzzed. She quickly pulled it out, Julian again. It was his 3rd call today. Ever since their last conversation, he had been relentlessly trying to contact her, but she couldn't stand to hear his voice. Her mind was consumed by one thing: getting her family back. Standing outside Ethan's temporary apartment building, Sarah took a deep breath and rang the buzzer. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. Just as she was about to leave the gifts at the door, the elevator opened and a middle-aged woman walked out. "Looking for Mr. Miller?" the woman asked, sizing her up. He and the little one went to the park. They just left. Sarah thanked her and hurried back downstairs. The early summer sun was blinding. She remembered a small park nearby that had a swing set Lily loved. The park wasn't crowded. Sarah quickly spotted Ethan. He was standing by the swings, gently pushing Lily higher and higher. The little girl's laughter was like silver bells. A smile touched Sarah's lips, and she was about to call out when she saw a familiar figure walk toward them. Maya Chun. She was dressed in a simple white t-shirt and jeans, her hair in a casual ponytail. She looked younger, more relaxed than she did at work. Ethan turned and saw her, and his face broke into a smile, a genuine, easy smile Sarah hadn't seen in years. Maya was holding 2 ice cream cones. She handed one to Ethan, then knelt to wipe Lily's sticky face with a napkin. Sarah froze, rooted to the spot. The interaction between them was so effortless, so natural. It was as if they were a family. Lily even took Maya's hand, pulling her toward the swings. Ethan stood by and watched them, his eyes filled with a tenderness and peace Sarah had long forgotten. The shopping bag slipped from her grasp, landing on the pavement with a dull thud. She stumbled backward, then turned and fled, her heart hammering against her ribs. She didn't realize she was crying until she was a block away. Back in the empty apartment, Sarah laid out the clothes she'd bought for Lily on the bed. The blue dress, the hair clips, the matching t-shirts. She snatched the world's best mom shirt and hurled it against the wall. Liar! She screamed into the silence. You're the worst mother in the world. Her phone vibrated again. She answered without looking. I told you to stop calling me. Sarah, what's going on? It was her editor, Mark. Sarah frantically wiped her tears. Sorry, Mark. I thought you were someone else. What's up? Have you finished a follow-up piece on the Julian Reed interview? The deadline is tomorrow, Mark said, his voice laced with annoyance. And he just called me, complaining about your attitude. What the hell is going on? Sarah gripped the phone. I'll have it in on time. As for Julian, we have some personal disagreements. I don't care about your personal problems. Mark's tone grew stern. Oratech is one of our biggest advertisers, and Reed specifically requested you for this series. Don't screw this up, Sarah. That senior correspondent position is still on the table. After hanging up, Sarah mechanically opened her laptop to work on the article. The words on the screen felt foreign. All the praise for Julian's business acumen and charisma now seemed like a sick joke. The scene from the park flashed in her mind. The unspoken understanding between Ethan and Maya, something she and Ethan once had, but that she had destroyed. Damn it all. Sarah slammed the laptop shut and buried her head in her hands. She had to do something. She couldn't lose them. The next morning, Sarah stood outside Lily's preschool with a container of freshly baked cookies. They were Lily's favorite chocolate chip, the kind she used to make every time she came back from a business trip. When Ethan walked up, holding Lily's hand, he stopped short. Mommy! Lily let go of her father's hand and ran into her arms. Sarah knelt and hugged her daughter tightly, breathing in the faint strawberry scent of her hair. Hi, sweetheart. Did you miss me? Yes. Lily planted a loud, wet kiss on her cheek. Daddy said you were busy at work and couldn't come see me. Sarah looked up at Ethan, who stood there, his expression unreadable. He had lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes, but he looked less burdened. I made your favorite cookies, Sarah said, holding up the container. Lily cheered and eagerly took one. Yummy. Daddy, you have to try one. Ethan shook his head. It's almost time for class, Lily. Put the cookies in your backpack for later, okay? As the little girl obeyed, Sarah seized the opportunity. How about Mommy picks you up this afternoon? We can get ice cream. Lily's eyes lit up, but then she looked at her father, her face clouded with uncertainty. But Maya was going to bring Leo over to play with me today. Sarah's smile froze. Ethan cleared his throat. Lily, go on inside. You're going to be late. As Lily ran into the school, Sarah turned on Ethan. Are you that eager to find a new mother for our daughter? Ethan's eyes turned cold. Don't talk like that in front of Lily. Maya was just bringing her nephew to the same park. A coincidence. Sarah scoffed. Just like it was a coincidence she showed up at your company? Or a coincidence she helped organize Lily's birthday party. Enough, Ethan said, his voice quiet but sharp. You have no right to question who I see. Have you signed the papers? Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. Ethan, please, just give me one more chance. I know I was wrong. I can change. It's too late, Sarah, he said, shaking his head. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. He started to walk away. Sarah grabbed his arm. At least let me pick her up today. Please. Ethan hesitated, then finally nodded. Have her home by 5. She has school tomorrow. Sarah stood at the gate, watching him walk away, and a cold certainty washed over her. He really didn't love her anymore. Back at the office, Sarah tried to focus on the article. The deadline was looming, but her thoughts kept drifting to Lily. On the monitor, Julian Reed's handsome face smiled confidently as he spoke in the interview video. The sight of him now made her sick. "Ms. Jenkins, how's the article coming along?" Julian's assistant appeared at her desk. "Mr. Reed would like to review it before publication." Sarah forced a smile. "Still making some edits. It should be done this afternoon." "Mr. Reed specifically requested that you emphasize his insights on tech innovation," the assistant added pointedly, "and not his personal life." Sarah understood immediately. Julian was afraid she would expose their affair. A surge of anger rose in her, but she just nodded calmly. Of course, a professional report should focus on business. As soon as the assistant left, Sarah stared at the screen and made a decision. She deleted every word praising Julian's personal charm, leaving only the driest business analysis. To hell with him. She could at least salvage what was left of her professional integrity. At 4 o'clock, Sarah left work early to pick up Lily. The teacher looked surprised to see her. "Oh, Lily's already been picked up." "What?" Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "By who?" "Her father and Ms. Chun," the teacher replied. "They said they had already spoken with you." Sarah didn't wait to hear the rest. She ran out of the preschool, her hands trembling as she dialed Ethan's number. It rang and rang before he finally answered. "What is the meaning of this?" she screamed into the phone. "We agreed I would pick her up today." There was a pause on the other end. "Sarah, calm down. Didn't the teacher tell you?" Lily suddenly came down with a fever. "The school called both of us. You didn't answer. I was in a meeting, so Maya went to get her. They're at the hospital now." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Which hospital?" "At the Children's Hospital emergency room." Sarah spotted Ethan immediately. He was standing by the 4 chairs, holding a flushed and sleeping Lily. Maya stood beside him with a bottle of water and a cold pack. The sight was a knife to Sarah's gut. This should have been her place. "Lily." She ran over, reaching for her daughter's forehead. Ethan shifted away. "She just fell asleep. Don't wake her." "I'm her mother," Sarah hissed, her voice low but furious. "I have a right." "The right?" Ethan's gaze was like ice. "Where were you all the other times Lily was sick for the past 5 years? You only remember your rights as a mother now." Sarah opened her mouth, but no words came out. Maya tactfully spoke up. "I'll go get Lily some more water," and walked away. "The doctor said it's just a low-grade fever from a cold," Ethan said, his voice a little calmer. "She could go home after the 4 is finished." Sarah looked at her daughter's pale face, her vision blurring with tears. "I'm sorry. My phone was on silent. I didn't hear it." "It's fine," Ethan cut her off. "You never do." The quiet statement was more painful than any accusation. Sarah sank into a nearby chair and covered her face with her hands. She heard Ethan thank Maya as she returned, heard Lily murmur, "Daddy," in her sleep, and heard the sound of her own heart breaking. After the 4 was done, Ethan insisted on taking Lily back to his place. Sarah had no grounds to object and could only follow them out. Before getting into his car, Ethan turned to her. "Have you thought about the divorce agreement?" Tears streamed down her face again. "Are you that desperate to be with her?" Ethan sighed. "This isn't about Maya. I just want a stable environment for Lily." He paused. "My lawyer said if you refuse to sign, we can file for a no-fault divorce after a 2-year separation." The words hit her like a physical blow. He had already planned that far ahead. She finally understood. There was no saving this marriage. Back at her apartment, Sarah opened her laptop to finish the godforsaken article. A new email popped up. The sender was Frank Peterson. The subject, something about Ethan. Confused, Sarah opened it. "Ms. Jenkins, my name is Frank Peterson, Ethan's colleague. I know this is overstepping, but I think there are some things you have a right to know. Ethan never told you that Microsoft tried to headhunt him last year for a director position with 3 times his current salary. He turned it down because the job required frequent travel, and he didn't want Lily to grow up like he did, barely seeing her parents. He has turned down at least 5 similar opportunities. Every time, he cited family reasons, but we all knew it was to support your career. Seeing him now on the verge of losing Lily, it just doesn't seem fair. If you have any conscience left, please don't make this divorce harder on him than it already is. Frank." Sarah stared at the email, the room spinning. She knew Ethan had sacrificed for their family, but she never knew how much. And in return, she had given him betrayal and neglect. On the screen, the video of Julian's interview was still playing. Sarah suddenly saw him for what he was: arrogant, phony, and selfish. And for this man, she had lost the husband who loved her most in the world, and her daughter. A tear dripped onto the keyboard. Sarah deleted the entire article and started over. This time, she would write the truth, exposing the flaws in Oratech's products and the questionable ethics of Julian Reed's business practices. It would probably end her career, but at least she could get back a shred of her self-respect. After sending the article, she texted Mark, "I've rewritten the Julian Reed piece. It may not be what the client wants, but I stand by it as the more truthful version. I am prepared to face the consequences." Then, she called her lawyer. "About the divorce agreement, I'm ready to sign, but I want to negotiate for visitation with Lily at least twice a week." Hanging up, Sarah curled up on the sofa, clutching Lily's favorite blanket. It still smelled faintly of her, the only comfort she had left. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the room in shades of blood red. Sarah remembered her wedding day 7 years ago. At a similar sunset, Ethan had whispered in her ear, "For richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, I will love and cherish you, till death do us part." Death hadn't parted them. Her own selfishness and indifference had. ###Chapter 9. The final goodbye. The pen hovered over the divorce agreement, Sarah's fingers trembling slightly. A drop of ink fell from the nib, blooming into a small blue circle on the paper, like a single tear. She took a sharp breath and signed her name. The scratch of the pen on the page sounded like something breaking inside her. Her lawyer politely slid a box of tissues toward her. Only then did she realize tears were streaming down her face. "The visitation rights have been included as you requested," the lawyer said gently. "Wednesday afternoons and all-day Saturday." Mr. Miller had no objections. Sarah nodded, unable to speak. A corner of colored paper was sticking out from under a file on the lawyer's desk. She instinctively pulled it out. It was a drawing from Lily. It showed 2 houses, one big and one small. Inside the big house were 3 stick figures. Inside the small one, there was only one. Next to the group of 3, it said Daddy, Lily, Maya. Next to the lone figure, it said Mommy. "This is..." Sarah's throat tightened. The lawyer looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Miller said Lily has been drawing a lot lately. He asked me to give that to you." Sarah carefully folded the drawing and put it in her purse, terrified of creasing it. When she stepped out of the law office, the early summer sun was blinding. Her phone vibrated. A text from Mark. "Julian Reed saw your article. Oratech is terminating all contracts with us. The board is demanding a public apology, or you're fired." Sarah stood in the middle of the sidewalk and laughed. In a single day, she had lost her family and her career. The irony was perfect. Back at her home. No, she couldn't call it that anymore. It was just an empty apartment. Sarah pulled a bottle of red wine from the rack. Ethan had taken most of his things, but left the wine. She drank straight from the bottle, the bitter liquid burning her throat. On her desk sat the Financial Journalist of the Year trophy next to a thick stack of business cards. Julian Reed, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Davis. All the contacts she once thought were so important. She grabbed them and tore them to shreds, one by one. When she got to Julian's, she ripped it with particular force, as if the act could erase the memory of him. The bottle was soon half empty. Sarah stumbled into Lily's room, the one place she had insisted on keeping exactly as it was. The small pink bed was neatly made with Lily's favorite star pattern quilt. The puzzle they had last completed together was still on the desk. Sarah collapsed onto the bed, burying her face in the small pillow, desperately trying to inhale the last traces of her daughter's scent. I'm sorry, she whispered to the empty room, not knowing who she was apologizing to. Her phone rang again, an unknown number. She managed to answer. "Hello, is this Sarah Jenkins?" a woman's voice asked. "This is Claire Morgan, editor-in-chief of the Financial Independent. We saw your piece on Oratech. We were incredibly impressed by your professional courage. I was wondering if you might be interested in talking about a position with us." Sarah froze, the alcohol-induced haze clearing slightly. "The Financial Independent? But you're just a startup. Small, but dedicated, Claire said with a laugh. We can't offer the salary of a major network, but we can offer absolute editorial freedom. Your article is exactly the kind of journalism we want to champion. After the call, Sarah sat on the floor, looking around the apartment that was once filled with so much life. The family portrait was still on the wall, the three of them smiling happily. She reached out and gently traced Ethan's face, then Lily's. In reality, they were now a new family unit, and she was the weekend mom. Tears mixed with wine as she fell asleep, curled up on the floor of Lily's room. She dreamed of a grown-up Lily, looking at her with cold, indifferent eyes, saying, "You are not my mother." 1 year later, the sun was bright on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. Sarah arrived at the park 30 minutes early and chose a bench with a clear view of the entrance. As per the agreement, it was her day to spend with Lily. In the past year, she had never been late for a single visit, often arriving early, terrified of wasting a single minute. Her phone vibrated. A text from Ethan. Something came up last minute. Maya will bring Lily. Same place, 12 p.m. sharp. Sarah's thumb hovered over the screen, unsure how to reply. In a whole year, Ethan had never missed a handoff. Why was he sending Maya today? She took a breath and typed a simple, "Okay." At noon on the dot, Sarah saw the familiar little figure. Lily was taller, wearing a new yellow sundress, skipping ahead. Behind her was Maya, dressed in a simple blue dress, carrying a cartoon-themed water bottle and a sun hat. Sarah stood up, forcing a smile. When Lily saw her, she broke into a run. "Mommy." That single word made Sarah's heart stop. She knelt and hugged her daughter tightly, greedily breathing in the scent of sunshine and kids' shampoo. "Did you miss me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Lily nodded vigorously. "Yes, Daddy bought me a new puzzle, and we finished it. It's so pretty. And Maya helped me make cookies." Sarah's smile tightened. She looked up at Maya, who gave her a polite nod. "Sarah, happy holidays. Ethan got called into an emergency meeting, so I brought Lily." Sarah stood, subtly looking over the woman who had replaced her. Maya looked more confident, more at ease than the last time they'd met. There was a glow about her, a radiance Sarah recognized as the unmistakable sign of being loved. "Thank you," Sarah said stiffly, taking Lily's small backpack. "I'll have her back by 5 o'clock. Maya hesitated. "Actually, Ethan said if you want, you can take her for dinner. Just have her back by 8. This unexpected generosity caught Sarah off guard. For a year, Ethan had been rigid about the visitation schedule. What was different today? "Daddy and Maya are going to look at houses." Lily blurted out. "We're moving to a big house." Sarah felt the world tilt. She had to grab the bench for support. Maya's face flushed. "Lily, that was supposed to be a surprise. I'm sorry." The little girl, realizing her mistake, had tears welling in her eyes. "I forgot." Fighting back the daggers in her own heart, Sarah knelt and wiped her daughter's tears. "It's okay, sweetheart. That's wonderful news. Mommy is so happy for you." Maya stood there awkwardly. "Sarah, we weren't trying to. You don't have to explain." Sarah cut her off, her voice surprisingly steady. "Ethan deserves to be happy. Thank you for taking care of Lily. I can see how much he loves you." The words seemed to make Maya even more uncomfortable. "She talks about you all the time. Her bedroom wall. It's covered in pictures of the two of you." Sarah nodded, not wanting to continue the conversation. "We're going to ride the carousel now. I'll have her home by 8. Watching Maya walk away, Sarah felt a strange sense of calm. For the past year, she had imagined this moment 1,000 times, each time with searing pain. But now, seeing the love and guilt in the other woman's eyes, the ache was manageable. "Mommy, can I have cotton candy?" Lily tugged on her hand. Sarah smiled and squeezed her daughter's fingers. "Of course. Today, you can have whatever you want." They spent 4 hours at the park. The carousel, the bumper cars, the paddle boats. Sarah bought Lily cotton candy, ice cream, and a balloon, taking hundreds of photos. Finally, they sat on the grass for a small picnic. "Mommy, look what I drew," Lily said, pulling a piece of paper from her bag. "This is for you." Sarah took the drawing, and her breath caught. It showed 2 houses, one red and one blue. The red house had 3 people. The blue house had 1. But this time, a little path connected the 2 houses, and a smiling little girl was walking on it. Above, in wobbly letters, it said, "I love both my homes. Do you like it?" Lily asked hopefully. Maya said it's okay to have two homes and that they're both mine. Sarah pulled her daughter into a tight hug, hiding her tears. I love it, sweetheart. It's the best gift I've ever gotten. That evening, Sarah took Lily for her favorite pizza. Watching her daughter devour a cheesy slice, she couldn't help but ask, Is Maya nice to you? Uh-huh, Lily said through a mouthful of pizza. She reads me stories, and she makes teddy bear cookies. Daddy says she's going to live with us forever. Sarah's hand trembled as she put down her fork. And, are you happy? Lily thought for a moment, then nodded seriously. Yes, but her face fell. Sometimes I miss you. Daddy says I can call you anytime, but I'm scared you're busy at work. The words were a knife in Sarah's heart. She reached out and stroked her daughter's cheek. Mommy's new job isn't as busy. You can call me anytime, sweetheart. Anytime at all. Really? Lily's eyes lit up. Maya said you have your own company now. She said you're really cool. Sarah was surprised Lily knew. The past year had brought many changes. After being fired, she had taken a job at the Financial Independent, and later, with a few like-minded journalists, she had started her own independent media studio focused on in-depth investigative reporting. The pay wasn't what it used to be, but she had found her purpose again. Most importantly, she had learned to balance her life. On Wednesdays and Saturdays, she dropped everything for Lily, and if her daughter called at any other time, she would be there in a heartbeat. Mommy, is it time? Lily glanced at her kid's watch. Daddy said 8 o'clock. Sarah nodded and paid the bill. She wanted nothing more than to keep her daughter for another minute, another hour, but she couldn't break another promise. Downstairs from Ethan's new apartment building, Sarah held Lily's hand, her heart pounding. She wasn't ready to see Ethan and Maya together. To her surprise, only Ethan was waiting by the entrance. Daddy! Lily let go of Sarah's hand and ran to him. Ethan bent down and scooped her up, then nodded at Sarah. Thanks. Did you have a good time? It was the best. Lily answered for her. Mommy bought me a balloon and cotton candy, and we rode the carousel 3 times. Ethan smiled as he listened, his gaze shifting to Sarah. A year had made him look more settled, more confident. The exhaustion was gone from his eyes, replaced by a quiet contentment. I heard. You're moving, Sarah ventured. He nodded. Yeah, we bought a place with a yard. Lily can finally get the puppy she's always wanted. He paused. What about you? I heard the studio is doing well. It's okay, Sarah said softly. At least I'm in control of my own time now. An awkward silence fell between them. Lily was already dozing on Ethan's shoulder, her small hand still clutching the balloon string. They both started at the same time, then stopped. You go first, Ethan said. Sarah took a deep breath. I wanted to thank you for letting Lily stay connected with me. And congratulations to you and Maya. She seems like a good person. Ethan's expression softened. Thanks. Maya really. She understands what's important. He paused. And I should thank you too, Sarah. We had good times. And you gave me Lily. That's more than anything. The words brought tears to her eyes. He was able to look back on their marriage and appreciate the good parts, while she was still haunted by what she had lost. I should get her upstairs, Ethan said, glancing at his watch. She has school tomorrow. Sarah nodded and leaned in to kiss Lily's cheek. Good night, sweetheart. Mommy loves you. Good night, Mommy, Lily mumbled sleepily. I love you 3000. It was their nightly ritual from Lily's favorite movie. Sarah fought back tears as she watched Ethan carry her into the elevator. Just as the doors were closing, he said something. By the way, Lily's birthday is next month. If you want, you can come over for cake. Maya said she can make that black forest kind you like. The doors closed before Sarah could respond. She stood alone in the empty lobby as the tears finally came. What was that? A peace offering? Pity? Or had he truly let go of all the anger, enough to invite her into their new life? Outside, it had started to rain. Sarah didn't bother with an umbrella, letting the drops mix with her tears. It had rained the day she signed the papers, too. A year had passed. She thought she had accepted her new reality, but seeing the way Ethan talked about his new home, his new life, the pain was still sharp, still new. Her phone vibrated. A message from her colleague. Sarah, we've confirmed the evidence of financial fraud at Oratech. Can we publish the story tomorrow? Sarah wiped her eyes and typed back. Publish it. It's our job. This was her new mantra. Be responsible. To her work, to her daughter, to herself. She had learned the lesson, albeit at a devastating cost. The rain fell harder. Sarah stood at the bus stop, looking up at the window of Ethan's apartment. The lights came on. She could see the silhouette of Ethan holding Lily. A moment later, another, more slender silhouette joined them. Maya. The three of them stood at the window for a moment. Then the curtains were drawn. Sarah tilted her face to the sky, letting the rain wash over her. She knew that tomorrow, when the sun came up, she would keep moving forward, for Lily and for herself. But tonight, in the rain, she allowed herself to grieve for everything she had lost. The bus arrived. Sarah took one last look at the lighted window, then stepped aboard and headed home.